Morning, everyone. Morning. Thanks to everyone for coming in the best room, early years. So my name's Debbie McAndrew, and I'm the early years lead for the Violence Reduction Partnership. I'm employed by Liverpool City Council as a service manager for children's centres and family hubs, but I'm seconded in part-time to the VRP. We've got 3 wonderful programmes to deliver this morning, and the first one is Sam from the ADHD Foundation. So, pass over
what
to
time
you.
have I got till?
I'll give you a warning.
Okay, great. Because I have a tendency to overtalk. So my name's Sam. I lead the Early Years Key Stage 1 service at the ADHD Foundation in Liverpool. And I'm here to talk to you this morning about our Umbrella Stay and Play service that's been funded by the VRU for the last 2 years. So over the last 2 years it's grown. We cover 6 children's centres across Liverpool and the Wirral. So we've got 3 in Liverpool, 2 on the Wirral and 1 in Sefton. So who we are, we're a small team. There's 5 of us currently, and we cover the schools, nurseries, and of course the children's centres across Merseyside. And what we do as part of that service, we work with children kind of as young as 18 months plus, really, up until Key Stage 1 in the schools. And what we do as a service is we provide support to teachers. We observe in schools and nurseries. We work with parents and carers. We work directly with the children themselves. We look at environments, and we offer training, which I'll talk to you about as we kind of go through the session. But yeah, we're focusing on the Umbrella Stay and Plays. So what happened a couple of years ago, we piloted stay and play sessions in a nursery in children's centre, in Liverpool, and then the VRU picked it up, and yeah, we've been working alongside them for 2 years, and it's growing in popularity as well. We have lots of centres that are asking for it. But really, to think about, first of all, why we do it. Now, I have to be really careful now that I don't go into training mode. I'm really passionate about early years, and kind of I think what came across this morning in kind of the keynote was around getting in really early and providing support for our little ones. Sadly, the statistics are quite negative around kind of neurodivergence and kind of life experiences, and we want to change that. At the Foundation, we're very passionate about looking at the positives, but we also do know that there are challenges, and we need to kind of acknowledge those so we can provide those early strategies. When we think about our early years, I always link it to the brain. So what we know is, in those first 6-7 years of life, the brain goes through rapid periods of development. So what we also know is that brain is impacted by ADHD and autism. So, when we work with children across the early years, but we're looking at those emerging characteristics of ND. Really hard in the early years when you're working with 2- and 3-year-olds because of the nature of how the brain is developing. So lots of the things that we will see with our little ones are typical because we're working with 2- and 3-year-olds. But we know characteristics will start presenting in the early years for some children. What we always talk about, and we make very clear when we talk about ADHD and autism, is they are brain developmental conditions. They develop in the womb. You are born with it. So it doesn't go away, and you don't just develop it. But characteristics change. So it can look like when your child gets older, suddenly, they've got ADHD. They didn't have it before. They did have it. It just might not have presented. Similarly, characteristics can almost plateau, so it looks like it's gone away. Again, it hasn't gone away. You might just have developed those strategies to kind of cope. But what we're also finding is, as well, as we know, lots of ND, it develops, it can be genetic. We find it runs in families. So what we're seeing lots of is our families with neurodivergence, undiagnosed. So if we're thinking about the challenges that our children face, actually thinking about the parents, and what we often are finding is our parents are saying to us, now that they're open to this world of neurodivergence with their little ones, they're learning about themselves. So they're starting to understand their own neurodivergence. So I always think about when I worked in school, and we'd always moan about those parents where the child never had their book bag or PE kit. But actually, now I know what I know, I think about is it because they've got their own ND? You know, and what we know with ADHD in particular is those organisational skills can be really tough. So if you're dealing with your own, especially if it's undiagnosed, so you don't quite understand it, you know, we've got those links as well. What we also know with ND is we often see big emotionally reactive behaviours. Again, looking at behaviour as a communication. So, you know, if I'm, you know, kicking out, hitting out, actually it could be because I'm trying to communicate something to the world, and it's changing that mindset and understanding it's not because I'm hitting you to hurt you, actually I'm responding to a situation. And that's what we kind of are looking at in our children's centres, because we've got two elements to the service. Now, we called it the Umbrella Stay and Play because our logo is the umbrella, and the reason we chose the umbrella as the logo for the foundation is because we think about all of those terms as sitting under an umbrella. So actually neurodivergence is the term, and underneath that umbrella are all of those neurodevelopmental conditions, so ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, all of those things sit under that umbrella. So we called it the Umbrella Stay and Play. Now, the Umbrella Stay and Play sessions, they sit in two parts. So as I said before, we work with 6 centres, and what tends to happen is, we've only done it for 2 years, but those centres changed, so other centres got to go, really. But that centre has the service for a year, so a practitioner is in that centre for a year, and they are there for a day, a week. And what they get is the hour stay and play session. So the stay and play session is for children with emerging characteristics of neurodivergence, but again, lots of the children we work with won't have a diagnosis. So we would never turn a child away. You know, we might work with children where, you know, it might just be very typical child development. I'll give you an example. I worked with one mum, a young mum, and she came to me, to the children's centre. The child was 18 months, and she said to me, I've seen on TikTok the characteristics of autism, and now I think my child's got autism. But actually, I didn't see anything. You know, and I always say my team isn't medical, we're not medical, so we're just looking at characteristics and strategies, but I wasn't seeing anything that was kind of not typical for an 18-month-old, but I think that's because she'd seen it on social media. But we wouldn't turn them away, because actually then it was supporting mum, and she really enjoyed coming to the sessions as well. And again, it could be, because the characteristics he was displaying could have been, but also he was 18 months, but she'd just seen that on social media. So we run the hour stay and play, it's a drop-in. So what we always say to parents is, if you get up late, we talk to so many parents that say, the morning routine is a nightmare, so getting them to a session is a nightmare. Even if you get there late, it's fine, it's a drop-in. If parents want to come to the session and then their child feel that it's overwhelming or the child becomes distressed, go, it's fine. You don't have to book onto that session. We jot down numbers for data, but we don't take referrals for the drop-in sessions. Again, child doesn't need a diagnosis, and we say kind of 0 to 5, but in the half terms, often we've got families that are coming back to us, and those families will bring siblings, which is great as well. So and that's fine as well. Again, it's looking at those emerging characteristics. So we're all about kind of, let's look at a presentation. Doesn't matter if it's ADHD or autism, we're just looking at the behaviour, and let's provide a strategy, because strategies don't harm. If a child goes on to not get a diagnosis, strategies won't have harmed that child, because little ones learn through having strategies. So that's what we're all about. Again, age kind of 0 to 5, and as I said, it's a drop-in. Now, the nature and the idea of the stay and play is supporting parents to understand and kind of celebrate the positiveness of play. And play does sometimes go kind of, they're just playing. And we are really passionate about play. What we tend to find is lots of our children that are coming to the sessions that don't play in the typical way, parents can find that quite tricky. So I work with parents all the time that will say, Sam, they've got every toy. I've bought them every toy and they just don't play with them. So it's around modelling how you can play with a child that might not be playing in the typical way. And trying to get a parent to understand it's not wrong, it just looks different. So we need to join their child on the journey. So we will model that play and help parents to get involved with that. And it's about trying to, for some parents they feel a little bit silly, kind of playing and feel like they're being watched, but we just will model that play within that session. We adapt activities as well. So when we first started the sessions, we look at common themes. So we look at kind of communication and language, we look at sensory, we look at movement, we look at emotions, and that's kind of the things we look at kind of when we think about ND. They're what we focus on. And originally we said we'd theme it, so by each week we'd theme it, but actually when you're looking at it, these things all overlap. So as long as we're getting that in our sessions, that's what we plan. But we're also really good at adapting. So, you know, again, I will get parents coming in and they get really nervous because their child might be the child that's just running up and down. And they're like, oh, he's not playing with anything. And we will adapt our practice. You know, I had a little boy that just used to tip things down the side of a cabinet. So we developed like a post box, and she was like, oh, that's a great idea. But they get really nervous, and I think lots of parents will describe it as feeling isolated. And that creates a vulnerability as well there. So what are the parents and carers thinking about the session? So lots of our parents, one thing that we get a lot of is that their children haven't been able to stay in plays before because they've become too overwhelmed. Our stay in plays are very quiet. We have had one centre in particular that got that busy and went to a booking system, because otherwise it takes away from the idea of our sessions. Our sessions are for ND, and lots of our children, especially in the early years, will be may have sensory processing differences. So for that session we went to a booking model so that 6 parents had 6 weeks because it was too overwhelming for the children. But some of the things that the parents are saying, you know, they're becoming more confident, speech is developing. And then on top of that, they get the one-to-one parent-carer advice sessions. So for this, the child, again, doesn't need a diagnosis. We offer 3 of these. So 3 sessions where parents can come to us and we will just talk about their child. We'll take a referral for that. But what happens on these is if they're quiet, we end up talking to parents about themselves, older children. We've also offered it out to staff. So if sessions are going unused, we've worked with staff to support them in their children's centres or their attached nurseries. So that's kind of the things that we support with as well, which has really, really helped. So it's looking at kind of working with parents as well. And what parents find with these sessions as well, it's helping them to develop an understanding. So understanding, we talk a lot about the brain and actually look at why the child might be presenting in that way. Some parents will go away and you haven't done a single strategy with them and they've just cried, but often they will go away and say they just felt heard. They felt heard, they didn't feel judged, and it's so hard to get face-to-face appointments these days that it's just nice coming for a face-to-face chat, and sometimes that's just what they need. As part of the Children's Centre contract, we also have, they also get access to our training package. So staff get access to the training package, which happens throughout the year, the early years specific one. And they also get access to their parents, accessing our parent carer support as well, which is on Zoom. These focus on understanding early development, emotion regulation, sensory processing differences, and sleep. Before I finish, I've just got out my bag, I just wanted to read you a case study as well. I'm not number driven. I have got a slide about data. So, you know, we've worked over the last quarter, we've had 700 plus returning families, and we've reached 323 new families. Parents have rated 9 out of 10 for how beneficial find the service is. Confident increased by 3.3 goal score, so how confident they felt after our sessions, and 100% said they would return. But I just want to leave you on this case study, and this was my colleague's children's centre. So she's changed the name for anonymity. Her name's Sarah, and she was a mother of 4 young children aged 1, 3, 6 and 7. She attended her first one-to-one parent-carer session after recently leaving a relationship involving domestic violence. Sarah described how her children present with a range of neurodivergent characteristics, ranging from sensory sensitivities to difficulties with social interactions. She found managing their needs exhausting and felt isolated from any support networks. Sarah expressed feelings of guilt and frustration, unsure how to best help her children. The experiences of her previous relationship had left Sarah lacking confidence in her parenting abilities and ability to interact socially. She admitted to feeling uncomfortable in group situations and avoided them, feeling judged about her personal life and children's behaviour. The one-to-one parent-carer session focused on giving her emotional support and offering practical strategies for managing her children's neurodivergent differences. In addition, Sarah was invited to the Umbrella Stay and Play drop-in. It was suggested as a way for Sarah to engage with other parents in similar situations and allow her children to play in a structured, supportive environment. Though initially hesitant, Sarah took on the advice and began attending the Umbrella Stay and Play with her 2 youngest children. The first few sessions were challenging for her, and she tended to stay in the background, unsure of how to interact with other parents. Her children, however, quickly engaged with the sensory-friendly play activities, and Sarah noticed positive changes in their behaviours. As the weeks went by, Sarah started to feel more comfortable. The group allowed her to connect with other parents, and the peer support helped Sarah feel less isolated. She began to share her experiences, exchange tips, and ask questions. Seeing other parents face similar challenges made her feel understood and validated. Attending the group had a noticeable impact on Sarah's children. They had made progress, mainly with their social interactions. The structured play environment, which catered to their sensory needs, allowed them to express themselves freely. She felt the consistent routines and strategies were helping the children feel more secure and understood. And as Sarah's confidence grew, she started to explore the possibility of herself returning to education and pursuing a career. She began to look into a course at a local college to study early childhood education. Through Sarah's participation and engagement with the service, she not only developed effective strategies to support her children, but she developed her own confidence as well as a parent and individual. And to start with, she was at risk of going down the route of the group she was with, which was a life of crime. So that was just a case study I wanted to share with you. Thank you for listening to me this morning.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. I know that you can talk and talk and talk. So thank you for cramming that all into 15 very quick minutes.
There's more to say, but I stopped.
We will take questions at the end from each of our speakers, but to ensure we get a full picture of what the offer is from our different partners, we want to go straight into each of the interventions. So next, I'm going to ask Kim and Magella, who are from Sefton, and they deliver a place-based approach, which was evaluated by Liverpool John Moores University. So, Kim and Magella, over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Magella Maguire. I'm a locality family hub manager in the north of Sefton, and my colleague here.
I'm Kim Evans. My role is Partnership and Project Coordinator for the Early Years team, and the Early Years team supports schools, settings, childminders around the early education offer.
And so really, my introduction to MVRP work was when Kim contacted me. She was new in post and she said, can you come along to a meeting in Liverpool? And that's where our relationship started, isn't it? So so from that, we'd already been looking in Sefton from the lockdown and from COVID. We'd been looking at sort of gaps for some of our early years children. And we had already looked at some of the articles that some of you will have seen around babies in lockdown, Best Start for Life that had come out in 2021, your family hubs, the developments there in the framework. We'd also been very lucky to secure some funding just coming out post-COVID to have BABS, which I know is going to speak and I won't steal their thunder. Because I'd been looking at that sort of parent-infant mental health and having that specialist service and it being a rare jewel. And I know there's lots more in the country now than there were, but at that time I think there was only about 23 and we became number 24. So we'd also been looking at the 1001 critical days, and for those of you who aren't familiar with that, that's from conception to the age of 2. It just adds up your 365 days twice for the 2 years and then your 9 months of conception. And we're very focused on that in Sefton as well and looking at how we can develop that. We'd also noticed, which isn't on the presentation, but I'd been picking up in some other groups I sit on, that some of our young people who were coming through the youth justice system, there were speech and language needs. They were unable to articulate themselves when stopped by the police. They were quite often on the pathway for ADHD or ASD. And we were picking up things that they'd had missed opportunities in their early years. So it was two-pronged really. It was looking at the gaps post-COVID, it was looking at gaps we had previously and then looking at our teens and sort of looking at some ways we could address that. We would always say relationships are key, and I know that's one of Bab's phrases as well, and they'll probably reiterate that in a minute. So, next slide, please. So, when we came together with MVRP, we started to look at our ward data analysis. We, first of all, unpicked 7 wards in Sefton, and they were all based around that South Sefton. So if you know Sefton, it goes on sort of a dog leg up the coast. And a lot of our funding in Sefton tends to go to the Bootle, Netherton end of our local authority, because that's where you've got your real intense pockets of deprivation. However, we were very aware, because of local intelligence in the north, we had Southport that has wards where it wouldn't deem overall that it hit those areas. However, when we looked at the pockets that we had within, there was real need there. So we were able to talk with our partners in MVRP and look at the data there and break it down more. I'm really glad we did, because of events that happened last summer. Now that that ward has been included in lots of the developments then we've made, I think it's been key. Next slide. Over to you.
Okay, so obviously our first part of looking at this evidence and this place-based project was the data, which was, we were quite overwhelmed and impressed with the hub when we came. I think we spent a long time saying, show us this, show us that. There was some kind of a witchery going on, and then there were some evidence-based programmes that we could immediately run with that had been used by MVRP before. So we were very quickly able to kind of pick that up. The first of that being Read to Bump, and subsequently Read to Baby and Toddler Tales that developed from that. And really, and obviously, as it says on the tin, there's a real emphasis on literacy with that, but from the earliest part of in utero. And that was something delivered by Jenny Holder, absolutely passionate. If you've not seen her speak before, absolutely amazing, to our schools and settings, but also partners as well. So early help, but wider than early help. So some of our partners in social care, some partners in health that really benefited from that evidence-based approach. And really what I liked about that kind of Read to Bump, Read to Baby, it was something that could be taken straight away in that key messaging for parents. Although the course itself is very evidence and sort of research based, those key messages are very transferable and to parents as well who might not have great literacy themselves, just how they could use sort of reading rhymes, books and things like that with their children. Monkey Bob was something else that was tried and tested via other local authorities and was delivered in Sefton as emotionally literacy programme, really linked to the Operation Encompass. However, a massive impact in terms of modelling to this. If anybody's ever seen it, it's like a cuddly sort of colourful toy, modelling that emotional literacy for children so that they have the words when they need it. And then something that we sort of talked about together with MVRP that hadn't necessarily been done before, and when we thought about gaps in terms of what we needed to do, we were able to bring Professor Fairlavers over from Sweden to deliver a session to our schools and settings and our wider partners as well around scales of involvement and wellbeing. So this is something that you might be familiar with if you do work in early years. It's a way of observing children to see what their capacity is really. So we know that involvement in wellbeing is essential for effective learning. So it's really a scale to kind of monitor children and to see where there can be improvements made and what we can do to support children maximise their potential.
And just back to sort of add on to what Kim was saying about collaborating, and we wanted it to be across the whole workforce, so we didn't want to leave any elements out. So we painstakingly went through all the teams that we have within local authority, but then also our partners. So we included early years settings, we included early help, staff from family hubs, we included social care. Social care was probably our hardest audience to get to come, their capacity to come out and join the training, but we see that as crucial moving forward, so it's an area we're going to be looking at to develop. We also involved our community midwives and our health visitors. They really, really were active and came on board. We involved virtual schools with our cared for children. And I think that's something that's really progressed because we're looking at having a group now in our new hub for our cared experienced new parents. We involved our talking therapy service. So we're lucky in Sefton in that we've got a very small talking therapy service attached to our family hubs and early help. And they look at the VIG, the video interactive guidance, the home coaching, incredible years. So there's all those prongs to add to it as well. And then also our domestic abuse services. And then, again, it was more partners that we added in as well, wasn't it? Okay, next one.
So after the initial kind of running with what we had available to us, we started to think about more localised need really, and what we thought would be would have the most impact. And something that we talked about was, certainly from our schools and settings, they were noticing that children's needs in reception classes had changed, and that approaches needed to be different. In the early years, we have the 7 areas of learning, but also the characteristics of effective learning. And somewhere along the line, we felt that we really needed to draw upon that and bring the importance on the characteristics of effective learning. So playing and exploring, active learning, creative and critical thinking, ways that children embed the skills from the earliest possible stage of development that they're able to then take forward. So obviously when they're at school they will have opportunities to learn to read and write, but actually those fundamental skills of being able to problem solve, to do something and it fail and have another go, for them to think creatively, for them to explore and be interested in things, they are fundamental to all learning that happens after. So the Lifelong Learners project really brought that together. Also thought about the child of today, maybe some of the individual challenges that are faced by families in today's kind of society, and to kind of build on that. So the MVRP funded the first project of that, and I'm really interested in these programmes being sustainable. We were able to then kind of collect the impact from that and go back to then our development group, and there's another cohort now going through this project. So really MVRP has kick-started a lot of this the work, and luckily I think we're going to be able to make it long-term and sustainable. We are in the process, we've got some train the trainer model practitioners now trained in PEEP. So PEEP is a Learning Together programme in terms of early years and the home learning environments. It's one of the biggest indicator of future success. So if you look at children, how they achieve in terms of their GCSEs, we can go back to home learning environments. PEEP is a nationally recognised evidence-based programme. Lots of local authorities are adopting it, and we've started to adopt it too. And we have so far trained 2 cohorts of early years practitioners and schools and settings, and early help and broader kind of colleagues, to be able to deliver groups, either in groups or with individual parents, around what parents can do at home to support their children's learning, and demystifying some of it in terms of it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be fancy, it can be things that you've got already, it can be activities that you're doing already, but you can just enhance it by bringing in further language or number or rhythm or rhyme. So this is something that we're really excited, and again, sustainability, because we've gone down the train the trainer model, we can roll this out beyond the wards that we've been able to engage so far in the future. So that's been really good in terms of kickstarting that. And it's me again, sorry. This is something that we were really excited about in Sefton. So again, with MVRP funding, we felt that what was key in terms of parents understanding what will help their children's development was hearing messages that were consistent across all services that they work with. And of course, lots of families are engaged with early help. That, you know, they obviously see their health visitors frequently, hopefully. But there were key partners who interact with families who may not be what we consider as our usual stakeholders. So, for example, we were delighted that housing got on board. We were delighted that community, so leisure centres got on board, libraries got on board. So they are services that are interacting with families from a day-to-day point of view, but might not consider themselves as part of the early education system, if you like. So what we wanted to do was to have a forum really, or some kind of mechanism for bringing representatives from all of those teams together and hear those key messages. So our conference was funded by MVRP, And that really kick-started that interest and that support. And then since we've had meetings where we've been able to bring key sort of developments in the early years sector. The three main developments that we sort of have looked at so far, but we are hoping to develop, is the childcare agenda. So does everybody know how and what parents can access in terms of childcare? So that's one of our key messages. Another key message is ready to learn, school readiness as it's often termed. What does that mean? It means something different to different people. Can we make it consistent? Can we be supportive in that way? And supporting children with special educational needs and disability. Are all of those stakeholders and all of those advocates aware on how to support and signpost parents into the support that they might need? Okay.
Okay.
What?
So then how we're going to evolve and sustain moving forward. So as Kim said, that advocates model, I think we were more pleasantly surprised than we thought at the number of people who came to that and from different groups. So we want to make that grow. There's other people who've shown an interest since because they've heard a colleague talking about it. And I think it's even your colleagues within children's services who maybe don't know the messages to be given out for those early years as well, so that we are getting the consistent messages. And we want to engage families through our existing provision, like the parent and toddler groups at our family hubs. Our family hubs are just sort of evolving now. We've been going through a massive, very long restructure. It's just starting to settle now, and the interventions are starting to come sort of back on board, looking at partners and what they're offering. The timetables are getting more fulfilled. Also, we've mentioned about the PEEP rollout. That's going to be critical for us moving forward. I've got a new line manager whose background is in social work, and she's really keen about us developing this now across our family hubs and within early help, because it's an ethos. It can then be delivered within the home, it can be delivered in a group, it can be delivered within a setting. We've also mentioned about the scales of wellbeing and involvement, how we're going to integrate them into some of our assessments. So I think, sort of bringing it back round to the beginning, one of our words, when Kim and I sat down to say, oh, we've got to do a 15-minute slot at the MVRP conference, one of the main words was collaborate, because we felt it had brought us together as early years and early help and family hubs, but also particularly through the early years advocates, we were able to bring more and more people on board. So it's about that whole integration, collaboration, and those relationships, and building on what you've already got. So I think that's us in a nutshell.
Are we done? Yes.
Thank you very much. Again, if there are any questions afterwards, we can get Kim, Majella and Sam back. So next, Lisa and Carmel from BABS, and they're going to particularly speak about the St Helens BABS project.
Yeah. Okay. How do you even flip this?
Good morning, everybody. My name's Carmel Doyle. I'd just like to say it's dead posh here, isn't it? I'm made up with it. Absolutely made up with it. My name's Carmel Doyle. I am operational manager for the Building Attachment and Bond Service. I'm really proud operational manager too. And we've got a great service. What I'd like to say is I'm also a midwife that understands about early intervention, the importance of it, and about that 1001 critical days. So I'll just hand over to Lisa.
Hi everyone, I agree with Carmel, this is a luxury to be in somewhere like this. So I'm here today wearing a few hats. I am the clinical lead for the BABS service across 5 boroughs. I'm also the Associate Director for Vulnerable Complex Families for Merseycare Trust. And I'm also the mental health lead for the local maternity system that operates across Cheshire and Mersey. And it's a real privilege to be here today. I think to be aligned to such a partnership that really supports vulnerable families and is all about preventing crime. And I would say that absolutely I'm here because I'm so passionate about supporting vulnerable families. And one of those reasons is because I come from a vulnerable community myself. I come from a vulnerable family myself. And, you know, I'm really interested. So I'm a bit of a data geek and I'm a little bit of a geek on the sly, although, you know, might not seem like that. But I'm dead interested about what Professor Quigg talked about before in terms of the data around perceptions of violence and perception of community. And she talked about how 86% of the UK perceives that Merseyside is very violent and has got a big issue with violence. 86% of the UK see Merseyside as having a problem with violence. But only 34% of Merseyside community sees it as a problem. And actually only 13% felt unsafe, feel unsafe in their community. So it's dead interesting in that data, because what it shows is a cultural thinking of the system, which is quite different to our community as well. And just a little tiny story before we move on to about Babs, is that I just wanted to share, it made me think really, when I was listening to Zara talk, it made me think about my first week on the doctorate in clinical psychology. So I did my doctorate down in Newcastle. I was probably one of the youngest people, I think, ever to do the doctorate in Newcastle. I was 23, bright-eyed, felt like an imposter. Nobody in my family had ever been a doctor, anything like that. And I was really overwhelmed. And I remember the first week, this all came to me listening to Zara before. I remember the first week, and I was sat with a cohort, lots of people whose mums and dads had been doctors. We were doing like an introduction, getting to know each other session, and somebody going round, and I'm from Liverpool, and and a guy on the course, lovely guy, said, "Oh, Lisa, whereabouts in Liverpool were you from?" I did my degree in Liverpool, did all my placements in Liverpool, when I was a mental health nurse or whatever he trained in. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I come from Anfield." And he said, "Oh, whereabouts in Anfield?" Yeah, I was on I had one of my services was in Anfield. And I saw a little road running through Anfield called Breck Road. That's where I grew up. And straight away he went, oh really? Oh, God, the violence and the crime in Anfield. And I know what he said. He said, God, you've done all right for yourself, haven't you? Coming from Breck Road. And within that moment, I didn't know whether the ground to swallow me up, because I felt a little bit embarrassed. And I also felt angry that my community was being judged a little bit. But it really made me think, and I think probably on reflection, it's what's driven my passion to support vulnerable families, to kind of smash it and really look at how we need to change culture and thinking about vulnerable families as well. A bit like what Zara said about kind of what's perceived about Merseyside actually is a very different picture to our community. And now I'm very proud to say that I'm from Anfield and Breck Road, and I'm with a few other people who also lived in Breck Road as well, so that's great. But I think today and Babs and everything that we're developing as a partnership is all about supporting those vulnerable families who might not always have the right picture painted of them, should we say. So Babs is absolutely all about supporting vulnerable families and preventing crime and preventing adversity. So what do I do, Deb? Do I just press? I'm not good at... Okay, so we're all about relationships. Wonderful Magella here is one of our great partners, and absolutely everything that Babs is about relationships from a top level, from myself and Carmel, linking with Deb, linking with Magella, all of you, to really championing families, all about building relationships with other services and supporting our most vulnerable parents to build relationships with their babies. That's what our model's about. Thank you. And I just love this quote. It's love and relationships that hold the solution for children and families overcoming adversity. So if I wasn't married, I'd probably marry Josh McAllister, who was a great advocate, who was a teacher by background, but wrote an amazing independent review of some of the issues facing our vulnerable families and how our children's social care system needs to be reset and reformed. He'd never be interested in me because he's a gay guy, but he's absolutely aligned to all of the beliefs and values that we have in Babs, which is all about relationships holds the solution very early on to our vulnerable families overcoming adversity. Thank you. And this is the guy himself. I also like him because I trained as an assistant psychologist in Cumbria, and people sometimes slate Cumbria, but it's a fab place, and he's the MP for Labour for Cumbria. So a little bit around Josh McAllister's review is he talks about the extreme stress that social care is under, and how the system needs to be reset on all these levels. Is this happening by magic, or is it you? Oh, great. See how in tune we are? This is all about relationships. I thought there was like a magic AI system turning my PowerPoints. Okay, so go on, Calm. Move on. So it really fleshes out that problem, that failure to recognise that relationships is the answer to everything. Relationships are absolutely everything. I'm also speaking to a mum of 4 children as well, who is happy to share the joys and pains of being a parent, like many of you. It's the most beautiful thing, but it's the most painful, horrendous thing. And it's the most horrendous thing, especially if you come from a place of adversity, or you come from poverty or social disadvantage or social discrimination. So I think it's really making sure that we get it right, relationships for our most vulnerable families. And Josh McAllister talks about this and says that actually we get it wrong by replacing organic natural bonds and relationships with services and professionals and strangers. You know, we put our children with foster carers instead of putting them with their own families. We get it wrong in the system, and he's very brave to say that, which is why I really think he's great. Moving forward. And just a little tiny bit on, sadly, you know, people say money isn't everything, but in our line of work it is. And actually, we have to understand the spending over the past 10 years with our kind of statutory services, and thinking about local authorities. This spending review, published in 2022, highlights the problem for all of us, I think, in this room, moving forward. So the key findings on the spending review show that actually there's been a 46% decrease cut in early intervention services, and there's been a 47% increase on late prevention services, reactive services, police, social care, you know, all the stuff that the Merseyside Violence Reduction Partnership many years ago would support, but now actually you support all the early intervention stuff, which is great. But actually all that late prevention, we're still funding the majority of pots of money into that pot, and we've reduced 50% nearly of our funding into early intervention. And I think for me, when you look at what Labour talks about and what government talks about and all the awful things that happen in the world, you just look at that spend, and it doesn't take a mathematician to see why. You know, we're just getting it wrong. We're not funding upstream enough. So local government spending on children's services just alone was £800 million over the past 2 years. So that's significant funding into late intervention. Okay, moving forward. So yeah, so just a little bit before I hand over to Carmel around the BABS model. So Carmel's going to talk about the BABS service across 5 boroughs, which we're really proud that we've developed over the past 10 years. But just thinking about the St Helens BABS service in particular, I want to thank Deb, first of all. You know, Deb came to me a few years ago, blown away by BABS and other boroughs, and said, Lisa, as you know, the kind of early years lead for the Merseyside Violence Reduction Partnership, how can I help BABS? I really believe in the model, I really believe in the service. And I said, Deb, help us fund another borough. Because although it's great, we're not across all boroughs. It's postcode lottery still, you know, where you get good intervention services like yourselves. And I said, we've got a huge gap in St Helens. The data for St Helens was shocking in terms of vulnerability, set up to fail, social deprivation, inequalities, all that stuff. So Deb and the council and Merseycare help fund the service in St Helens. And it's focused on, sorry, just go back one. Sorry, Carm. Our ADHD brains, yeah. Carmel's just as quick off the mark as me. So we're very much focused in BABS on supporting the most vulnerable families, strengthening partnerships within systems, and absolutely focusing our services to be integrated, to be partnership. So we are a specialist mental health service delivered by Merseycare, but we're based in the family hubs to offer the best start for life. We champion the most vulnerable families and relationships, and we are a true integration with as health and care, social care, and early help in the family hubs. And our biggest goal is preventing families from breaking down, and for me in particular, preventing babies from being removed from parents' care and placed in the care system, which isn't an ivory tower and isn't always the best for families, as we know. Okay, hand over to Carmel.
You do all the exciting stuff. As Lisa sort of raised, partnership working is really, really important. So we are an easy to engage parenting for mental health service, supporting those very vulnerable, complex families really, on attachment relationships and how they can actually improve their bond with their baby really. So it's a psychosocial model of care and supports parents to separate out the past and present struggles from the relationship and actually sort of form that really good relationship with their infant or their baby. For me, I think we look at domestic abuse, we look at substance misuse, and we look at mental health as the main problems across all boroughs. But I think social deprivation is huge, and social deprivation not just on housing and debt, but social deprivation about accessible for services, access for those vulnerable, complex families, but access to services. Because in my mind and in Lisa's mind, we discharge too quickly. We disengage with these families really quickly, and they are really struggling to engage with services. And once we get that right, and I think we have in Babs, we've still got a lot of work to do, we get it right for families. So we believe relationships are everything for families, within the system, within the workforce, and we believe in an MDT model of work, so that multidisciplinary team working. We invite our referrers for that discussion at the very, very beginning. 40 to 50% of BAD's work is about partnership working, and it's about supporting the systems, doing that systemic work. We believe silo working, silo thinking actually is poorer outcomes, and more heads are better than one, basically. This is where we are across the boroughs, and I've been given 3 minutes to be very quick. So we're in these boroughs. For me, Liverpool, here we come at some point, but that will be in the future, because we know there's gaps in areas. Wanted to play this small video, we probably won't have time.
It's only just under 2 minutes, Deb.
Can we just play it?
Because this is the important stuff.
How do we play it?
Just we click on the link, click on the blue link. How do you play it, Deb?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. It's 2 minutes.
4 minutes.
We'll cut it short.
So
I might have a long video, right? We'll cut it short after 2 minutes, Deb. Sorry.
We'll just hear some of it and we'll cut it short.
You've got time to play it all, Lisa.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you have the volume up? Terrible with technology. Oh, no, it's not. It's not. Oh, yeah. Oh, hold on. Tweedledum and Tweedledee. Like Morecambe and Wise. Hold on.
Fair enough. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Oh.
Let people know how you're feeling.
Deb, how did you do it?
Thinking.
Sorry. Always fails us, technology.
Anything like that, social services will get involved and they'll take your baby off you. And I was petrified that happening.
Deb, I'll just do this moment.
Sorry. Sorry.
Shame we can't see the video.
It's only a few minutes.
We'll have time if we go. We're okay.
We're all right for time. So,
Fill time.
shall we just move on to the other slides and then play the video?
Yeah, okay.
I'll just go on to the other slides, there's only a couple, and then go to the video.
On with it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Tell me to do it. Yeah.
We are.
Oh, yeah, techie guys here. Sorry.
Techie guy. Come on, techie guy.
Just volume. Yeah, just to hide it up. Thank you.
I had the mindset because I've been told this from other people. If you let people know how you're feeling or thinking, anything like that, social services will get involved and they'll take your baby off you. And I was petrified of that happening.
You hear it? Yeah.
My life was horrible. It really was. It was horrible. One fella broke my nose, the other knocked me teeth out, the other stabbed me in the eye, shot me in the leg, and I think, you know what, when you stop me think, I kicked myself for letting them win. And then I had him and I thought, well, yeah.
We referred to social care originally because my mental health was at its worst possible point. The children were seeing things that they shouldn't have been seeing and shouldn't have been witnessing.
A lot of my anxiety was that I wasn't going to be there for the girls because things were that bad. I thought it was going to end up where like we'd split up or I wouldn't see them, and it affected me massively because I obviously like every day I thought this is going to be the last time that I'll be staying in the house with them, that I'll be able to wake up with them in the morning, because I just didn't know what was going to happen next in the relationship. I was in a really bad place, a really dark place.
It's just been great to know that people are on your side and helping you to deal with problems in your past, not judging you for your problems in your past.
I think the biggest thing that Babs has brought is an alternative for families. It removes that shame that families feel for being in tricky circumstances, and it gives them a light at the end of the tunnel.
As a social worker, our primary goal is for a child to stay with their parents, and the support that Babs offers in building up that attachment and building up that bond, that then helps them work towards the goals that we maybe as professionals are putting in place.
I was really benefited so much by not just Babs but by social services as well. You know, it helped me just think, I'm doing all right as a mum here, that I bring a lot of joy to my baby, and I was quite proud of that really.
When supporting vulnerable families, we're often very focused on safeguarding risk. But sometimes we lose sight that we can't safeguard risk unless we safeguard the parent-infant relationship and parent-infant mental health. They both go hand in hand.
I've yet to meet a parent who doesn't want the very, very best for their own child.
I'm a brilliant mum, yeah. I didn't think I'd be able to do. It's so good.
If I didn't have this help, then I wouldn't be the mum that I am now. I'd be different. Life would be different.
It's a value change as well as a practice change, and something that would ensure that children stayed more often than not with their families.
I'm just so proud and happy that they're mine. I wouldn't want my life any other way. And learning that not everyone's perfect, and I'm still a human, I'm still a great mum, I'm still a great partner, and Babs has helped me to realise that.
Very quickly, the last few slides, and then
Sorry, there was a bit of a delay on the video. Deb, you need to get a refund on your lovely hosting. A technology system like that.
It was okay, that's great.
Okay.
Yes, so
Just a few slides. We've got
just a few slides. So we talk about this is St Helens. So that exactly that work in that video is happening in St Helens, and I'd say about 80% of our families have criminality running through the whole of their themes. But the St Helens Babs Triangle is our staff training really. So this is our offer. collaboration being the key of it. So you can see we have a universal offer, we have a targeted offer, and we have a specialist offer. Really, that one-to-one psychotherapy works. You know, I never thought as a midwife I'd be working with a psychologist, but relationships are everything. And it's really important because I recognise the early intervention at the very beginning from conception. Lisa understands that really psychotherapy, to break those cycles for better public health outcomes, we need to work together. So I'll go to the last slide, okay.
So just the last thing we want to say is obviously, sorry, just very quickly, these are our outcomes for St Helens. We were commissioned to deliver support 140.
But we've well exceeded 143, let me just say, because I did the data on that yesterday. And we can prove without a shadow of a doubt the cost savings. The last slide.
So you're going to be getting a report, evaluation report. We're doing a video on the St Helens BAB service that Deb doesn't know yet, but Deb's going to be saying a few words on. And just the last thing to say is BABS, I'm delighted to share, BABS is now a national best practice model for the most vulnerable families. So it's been acknowledged nationally by the Parent Infant Foundation and by Merseycare. So, and I just want to thank the Merseyside Foundation.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you, Lisa and Carmel. So you've heard we've had a whistle-stop tour of some of our early years interventions. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for Sam, Kim, Magella, Lisa or Carmel. We do have a few minutes before lunch. If anyone's got any questions for anyone.
When Babs comes to Liverpool, can we have a thing? Please, Luke.
Well, Professor Matt Ashton is in the building. Lisa?
Can I just say, I will be catching Matt because Matt commissioned our first Knowsley. BABS was set up in Knowsley 10 years ago by myself and Carmel under Knowsley Public Health funding, which Matt Ashton cornered me and said, Lisa, we've got to get this under CCG, Integrated Care Commissioning. So I will catch Matt.
And the other thing, Deb, is we know there's parents of the mental health service at Liverpool, and we're not decrying them. It's about working in partnership.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we really do target those high safeguarding families, which actually cost all services lots of money, but actually have the poorer outcomes.
So use the evaluations from the VRP to show that model works and, you know, make it sustainable through those statutory services, funding them long term.
So providing that data, our video for St Helens and our evaluation, you'll get a copy of all of that.
Brilliant.
So that will support that going forward.
So we have a question.
Thanks for that. It's a question for Sam, really.
Sam, come on up.
Oh no, you don't need to do that. Just to say thanks for your presentation. It was a real education for me, so thanks in the first instance. Obviously you're doing outstanding work, didn't go unnoticed. And the question's really about the future. What do you need to be brilliant?
So, you know, we unfortunately, and this is something that we are we're considering at the minute, is we are yearly, because schools and nurseries are funded yearly. I never have any concerns about it going anywhere, but we are a yearly funded service. So currently that is how we work. So it's financial year as well. So we're currently coming up to that point. I know I have spoke to Debbie about looking at it going through Liverpool John Moores to get almost accredited so that it can be sustainable, but currently that is how we work. I always talk about this, I'll be dead honest, as you could probably tell from my presentation, I'm practical, I'm not data driven, so that is always the thing I say I think I need the most help with, because that's the bit, I'm a bit of a do it, go in, do the job, you know, type person, and I think my business brain, that's the bit I probably need support with, if I'm being totally honest, the sustainability. But it's there and it's picked up. Yeah, we are yearly, but we've talked about it, haven't we? The Children's Centre Service potentially looking at how we can sustain it. Yeah. But,
so again,
let's have a chat.
So it's about using the information we've collated with the help of Geraldine and the Evidence Hub to give information to our interventions, so they can then go to the statutory funders to make it an integral part of the early help offer across their local authority. Like Kim and Magella described, that it's been picked up by Sefton because the model's proven to work. And that's what we hope to support the likes of Sam with and Geraldine and her team to give data and information, help you present it in a way that will be hard to refuse.
Sorry, I've just got a quick question for Sam. Which children's centres are you based in?
So currently we're in Midland in Sefton. We've got West Derby. We've got Belle Vale. Fountains, but I'm not good with that. It's the Everton area. Fountains. Yeah, okay. I live in Chester, so I'm like, I put it in my sat nav and I just go. And then on the Wirral, I'm based in the Grove Street Family Hub, which is New Ferry, and we've got Eastway, which is Morton.
But it has been in Everton, Clubmore,
It's been
Granby,
it was in Five as well.
and Speak.
Speak, yeah. So it changes at the minute. Both years it's changed, so everyone.
And as Sam said, Sam invested in the staff in the children's centres so they could continue that work, creating sustainability and that approach to be applied to all universal services in the centres.
We've got 2 children's centres in our area, so we can put a bid in to get input for them. One of the things that is kind of been highlighted in our area, so cover the area where we had the incident with Olivia. So we've done a lot of work around the likes of ADHD and that early diagnosis not being in place, and the vast majority of these kids being open to exploitation and moving into that.
So you're the Yew Tree neighbourhood, aren't you? That area, the East, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be fantastic to get you involved in that area.
Okay. Carmel?
Sorry, Sam, we definitely need to link because you're in Sefton, aren't you? Yes. So it would be good for you to come to one of our team meetings for Babs to present what the model. A lot of our parents with those children actually come to us and say, these humans too, my child's got ADHD. Obviously, no diagnosis. But sometimes it's about supporting their parent.
Absolutely.
Also supporting the child into a system as well. So if we can make some connection there, Sam, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Anyone? Oh, Georgie?
I just wanted to reflect on that. I just wanted to say it demonstrates Kieran at the front there, he's not in uniform. But is a police officer, and it really demonstrates to me asking those questions. It's how far policing's come. Asking that question is getting really early help, wanting to know how do we fix these problems at that early intervention level. And so that's brilliant for me. Just so you've got your community inspector here who's really ingrained and involved in the community, wanting to sort how we bring all these really early interventions in. It's brilliant.
Lisa?
I just want to build on that point because I think it is really exciting, the integrated partnership, and I think my head was buzzing when Georgina was speaking and Zoe, and I think there's so much more work we can do. I mean, I'm really passionate about, again, that prevention model of children going into care. Obviously it's the right place for some children, but absolutely we can prevent it for many. And just working with police more on those children that are in care and who absolutely need reunification models back to their families, and the police have got a huge role in supporting that work. So yeah, I'm really interested.
Yeah, I do. And I've worked 38 years in early years, and I know there are a lot of early years colleagues here, but for early years to have a valid space and status in this forum is amazing, because for those of us who've been involved in early years all these years, we've always been the Cinderella. You just man kids. But actually we build futures.
Absolutely. You do that early intervention.
Yeah.
Breaking cycles. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Told you this was the best room. So,